Hey, what's going on, everybody? Jonathan Bailor here, and we are back with another episode of the SANE Show. And I am happy to welcome back Natalie Jill, who's got a brand new book out called Age in Reverse. We spoke many years ago, so years have passed, and she, in fact, seems to have aged in reverse. So I am excited to hear more about this book. Natalie Jill, how you doing?
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me, Jonathan.
So tell me a bit about aging in reverse. What does that mean?
It's so funny because I think people automatically assume it's the physical. And yes, there is an element of that, but it's really so much more than that. And let me explain. So I'm 47 years old, and to me, 47 is supposed to look like this. This is what 47 looks like. But so many times people are so caught up in age. They'll ask me my age. I'll say what it is, and they'll be shocked by it. And I'm like, why are you shocked by it? And it's because of their own belief of what it's supposed to look like. And the reason I wanted to dive into this topic is that's one thing that was coming up heavy. But what was coming up even more heavy for me was the talk and the negativity around aging. So for instance, if I were to say to a friend, my knee hurts or my back hurts, the next comment would be, oh yeah, getting old sucks. Or you go to the doctor because something's wrong and they say, well, you are getting older. There's like this negative theme around aging. Or I would get questions on social media or online saying, hey, do you think I'm too old for this? And I started really seeing this little interesting trend around people thinking they're too old and it's too late. And I thought, you know what? I need to speak into this because you're not too old and it's not too late. There's so much that's a mindset piece here.
Talk a little bit about that difference between getting older and aging. Because I heard something in there. You can't not get older. That is going to happen.
Chronologically, we're aging, but why does it have to mean that your life is over, that you can't start a new job, or that you can't physically be fit, or that you can't do what you want to do because you're a certain age? So we tend to really lump 20s together, and then the 30s are together, and then all of a sudden it's like you're in the 40s and the 50s, and now you're in this old category. And that doesn't need to be the case. It's interesting because we have so much in media and so much around validating that. And it's what I call FAT, false assumed truths, FAT. It's all false assumed truths that we've been conditioned to believe. And when you buy into that, you do age faster, not number wise, but you start looking and feeling and acting older because you're buying into that.
So you mentioned it's not just physical, it is deeply psychological. So I'm sure you go into detail on this in your book, but what are some of the top ways you've seen the years go by, but aging doesn't have to happen, and maybe it can even happen backwards?
Yeah. So I look at it as three categories. There's really a triangle. If you want to picture it like a triangle, I call it transformation triangle. The top of it is your state. It's changing of your state. So it's your mindset around that. And I'm going to get into what that means in just a minute. But then there's also, of course, what you're eating. So I call that area the plate. So planning your plate. And that gets even more important as we get older, because we want to really make sure, are we eating for our best health? Are we eating anti-inflammatory? Are we eating to thrive versus deteriorate, right? There's there. And then there is the physical part. So there's the weight, there's the physical part. So I think all three are important, but we tend to focus on one or two, and we need to focus on all three. And it starts with that change of state. So you said, what are some specific things? I'm going to give you some examples. Number one, it's making a decision, like deciding that you are not your age. So just because you are a certain number doesn't mean you have to act, be, look, feel a certain way. So it's getting rid of that belief. And it's very easy to do that, believe it or not, when you just make that decision, because what you'll do, our mind tends to want to validate whatever we believe. So if you believe you're too old and it's too late, you will continue to find evidence that you're too old and too late. You'll look for it. But if you believe you're just getting started, you'll look for that, and you'll find evidence of others your age and older thriving. I noticed as I was writing the book that I have friends of all ages, but I started noticing that I really love spending more time with my friends in their 30s. And when I really dove into why, it's because of the mindset piece, because they don't talk about all the ailments and getting old and it's too late. But I'd be with my 40 and 50-year-old friends, and that's what they're talking about. And it would bring me down. So that first step is truly making a decision. And then the next thing is I say cut the fat. And cutting the fat means recognizing false assumed truths, that they're real, and starting to realize how they are controlling your life, and start listing out, literally, what are these things that I've been believing and telling myself? What am I taking on that the doctor told me? And you start realizing that so much of this is starting with just a random belief that came out of nowhere. And once you've done that, So you've decided, you get clear on what's holding you back, these false assumed truths, or they become what I call self-imposed stops. And then really creating a vision for what it is that you want for the second half of your life and beyond. Like, what is it that you want? Because your reality is whatever you decide you want it to be. That's the first steps of it.
I chuckled to myself a little bit when you said you have friends of all ages and you tend to hang out with people who are in their 30s because they have a certain, mindsets around my hips ache or not.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting, and I don't want to get sidetracked too much, but there's definitely different things involving aging in our society when it comes to men versus women. Because I've actually found that a lot of the people I enjoy hanging out with are older.
Okay. Yeah.
Because, the sense of stability and peace and tranquility and family values, and less like, let's go clubbing and how many got a blue, it's fascinating because if from that perspective, it's almost like aging is just universally demonized, but there's a lot of potentially positive. About.
So it's what we're looking for, right? We're always validating evidence. So you're looking for that part of your life. So you're going to be attracted to that in your life. But what I was finding, especially with women, Jonathan, it's not just the aches and pains. It's like the constant, wanting to fix everything. And it's just you can't, women would say, oh my gosh, it just takes me so much longer to get ready. It takes me so much longer to keep up. And it's but what is that? What is that? What if we could be back to how we were when we were youthful? And it's not about the appearance, but how you felt at that point. Anything was possible. You weren't so hyper-focused on fixing and controlling everything, because fixing and controlling everything is an illusion. It's not possible. So I don't have any problem with women that want to do stuff their face. That's a personal choice. And that's amazing if that's what they want. However, thinking that you have to, and that you have to keep up this continual race to keep it up and look different, that's not even possible. So if you focus on the other things first, that mindset piece and who you are within, your passion, having fun, playing, being real, all those things are going to have a much greater effect on how you age and how you view aging and how you're living.
I know that's, it's not unique to just the Christian tradition, but there's a saying in the Bible, or a phrase in the Bible that's, until you become like a child, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. And it's just that sense of joyfulness and play of just hey, it's cool. It's not a big deal. It's not heavy. Not everything's a big BFD. Not everything's a big deal. It's okay. And it's fun, and we can enjoy ourselves, and that's cool.
So when I look back, and I have a daughter who's 12, and I'm already seeing it shift with her. But when I would say up until about age 9 with her, and anyone listening who has kids or you know kids, you'll see what I'm talking about here. But when you look at it a young child, 9 or under, they have this sense of wonder and belief that anything is possible. They're super present. They're not aware of time. They play. They're confident. They just have fun. They're so in the moment, and it's such an incredible way to live. You ask them what they want to be when they grow up, they'll be princess, superhero, president, what they just say whatever, and they believe that it's possible. And then somehow along the way we get all of this, the false assumed truths that that's not possible, that this will hurt, this can't happen, and we stop ourselves, and then it just gets worse. You get into your 40s and your 50s and you carry this heaviness, and then you start really thinking I'm too old and it's too late. So yes, I could give you all the diet hacks in the world. I can give you the workouts. I can tell you the supplements, but that's not going to shift the inside. So that first part, that realizing that you can't control everything and in learning to embrace that is a first step. I'm not saying let your hair go gray if you don't want to. Look, my hair's not gray. It would be if I didn't pay attention to it. I'm not saying to do that. You could do what you want there, but we have to address that inside, and that's what's going to make you thrive and truly start aging in reverse.
What have you found to be, because that's so many of us, we look for those diet hacks. Just tell me what to eat now. Just tell me, what are the top 10 anti-aging foods? Let's just get it over with. And then that's all. So but then how do I get myself to want to enjoy eating? This is an enjoyable journey. I'm excited to rediscover food and not to be all right, I am flawed and old and I have to eat food to fight against that. How do we make that mindset shift?
Yeah. So once you decide that you really want to take this on, that's the first thing. You have to decide you want to get healthy, that you want to take this on, make that decision. And then I walk you through a bunch of exercises in the book on changing your state first. And one of those, in addition to creating a vision, is what I call a DCM. It's your driving core motivator. It's figuring out why you want that. And women always come to me and say, like, I want to look younger, or I want to lose weight. Like, that's the thing. Like, I want to lose weight, or I want to look younger. But when I say why, their answer is always the same. Well, I just want to be happy. Like, okay, well, what does that mean? Yeah. Because the happy is subjective. Like, what does that mean? And when you can get to the root of what that means, and I'll tell you, it's always like one of 5 things when you really dig. When you can get to the true why, your driving core motivator, that's what's going to motivate you to change and want to change how you're eating and take on the healthy foods. So your driving core motivator is usually something like you want to feel more confident, or you want to have fun again, or you want to feel connected to people. Like you're lonely, you're bored. Like getting to that, you want to be loved. Like when you figure out that true driving core motivator, what drives you, you are going to be a lot more likely to take on the food, because now you want to fuel yourself for it.
And when you find or start to approach, because it sounds like, I mean, some of this stuff, this is really deep stuff. I mean, this is cognitive behavioral therapy. This is some of us, I'm on the,
and I just scratched the surface, and I could have gone a lot deeper, Jonathan, but I know, I know these women, I know what they want. So I get to the diet too. So I get it.
Absolutely. So how, I mean, do we need to seek help?
Possibly, but I don't know that I think everybody could benefit for some type of help. I mean, I interviewed you before this, and we talk a lot about like doing work on yourself and personal development, whatever method that is, whether it's therapy or your own. But I think to overlook this, to skip this part and just going to the diet part, you're really doing yourself a disservice. Mm-hmm. The reason I look younger to some people, or they think I'm younger, really has nothing to do with the surface level stuff. It has to do with the inner work I've done. Mm-hmm. It has to do with a lot of that inner work. And I watch this change with people, when they actually do it. And if you don't believe me, just go look at yourself smiling in the mirror and see how many years that takes off. Because, if we're walking around with a scowl on our face, we do look older. So taking this on is critical. And then the food plays a role, yes, but not as a punishment. So like, just to give you an example around that, for years, I've taught eating an unprocessed natural food diet. In fact, my first book that you interviewed me about was called Unprocess Your Diet. And I taught about eating natural foods that once grew. Great, still how I eat. However, yes, as I was aging, I've had injuries. I had a disc rupture, for instance, and I had to take food more seriously. It's like, okay, now let's look at food from an inflammation standpoint. Is what I'm eating aggravating the problem, or is it helping me heal? And because I want to feel good about myself and be vibrant, and I know I'm not too old and it's not too late, I get to take food on more seriously. So I really look at, what is this doing for me? Not just, is this just helping a craving? Like, what's it doing for me? And that's when I dive into food with people. I'm looking at it from that place. Let's give you the best food that's going to help fight the biology problems, like that's going to help things that we know are linked to no focus, that are linked to, having that foggy head, that are linked to bloat, that are linked to stomach aches. Like, let's dial that in.
And what would you say is the number one difference between what you would have recommended in your first book, like, eat unprocessed food and it's cool. And of course, we all know that like sugar is terrible and blah, blah, blah. So, but what is like, I used to say that, but if you're really focused on aging in reverse, here's what's different from what I said in the past. Okay.
So, and this is controversial, and I get that. And what I'm going to tell anyone that they get triggered by this, and like, oh, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to say, if it's working for you, don't do it. Like if you already know what's working for you and you're thriving and great, you don't have to listen to me. If it's not working for you and anything I'm saying is resonating with you, take this on. So I eliminate all dairy and all grains. Mm-hmm. in this. And the reason is they're both linked to inflammation. Mm-hmm. So they're not helping us. So yes, I take out dairy and grains. Now, I'm not willing to get in an argument with somebody about why they think dairy is amazing for them. If it's working for you, awesome. But what I will say is, if you give me 10 days following this, if you feel that your pain is because of your age, give me 10 days where you're taking that out of your diet, and then tell me how you feel. You can always go back.
Gotcha. So the biggest difference is no dairy and no grains.
No dairy, no grains. And I'm adding in a lot of superfoods. So I'm really big on mega doses of vegetables. So I'm a huge fan. I don't think we are eating enough, any which direction. I'll also take it as far, and I'm not a vegan, but I will say that a lot of the health benefits that vegans talk about, it's because they're eating a lot more vegetables. So I'm heavy on the plant-based. I'm not vegan, but I'm heavy on ways to get vegetables in. And I'm big on that. So, and I'm sure you how to still have the chocolate and eat creative and have it be yummy. But yes, I'm working on getting inflammation away, getting bloating away, getting the focus and the back, and getting the foggy head out. Because I think women are blaming that. Men too are on age, and it's not just age. We can change this.
The good news is, from an eating perspective, a lot of the folks who are listening to this show are just going to be like, yep, don't need dairy and grain, and lots of vegetables
but
are
somebody
very...
Somebody I'm going to trigger. Somebody's listening. Going.
Yeah, so we're all good on that part.
Yeah.
So that's all good. So let's talk a little bit about, in the last few minutes we have here together, when it does come to not age, but just time passing.
Yeah.
When it comes to time passing, you can have the right mindset and you can eat wonderfully, and your joints and ligaments are not the same as they were when you were 15, speaking from experience.
Sure.
So what are we doing from a fitness perspective if we want to age in reverse?
Yes. Great. Okay. So first and foremost is that just know that somebody else's experience doesn't have to be yours. So just because like Jonathan had something happen to his ligament or doesn't mean that has to happen to yours. And I think there's too many times we're just assuming it's going to happen. Okay. So that's the first thing. And that is a false assumed truth. There are people that I saw recently on the news, a woman who's 100 years old that ran a marathon. Like it's possible. So I just don't know. What I'm frustrated about is that we always go to the extreme, like the negative, but instead of highlighting the positive, like how you can thrive. So yes, we get to be kinder to things. It's not that so much your ligaments all of a sudden don't work like they did, but our bodies are listening more and our bodies are keeping score on things. So like if you were training out of form, when you were 15 and it didn't bother you then, it's just going to catch up to you. It's just going to catch up to you. It's not that all of a sudden you're, 50 and now you got problems. So like there's a pattern there. So what can you do? You could be a lot more mindful of form. You could be a lot more mindful of functional training, using all different areas of your body, really strengthening your core. I'm telling you, I'm as healthy as can be in a lot of ways, and I still ruptured a disc between L5 and S1. I literally have no disc between L5 and S1. I had emergency surgery where they took out what had ruptured, and I did not put anything back in there. It freaking hurts all the time. It hurts. However, it hurts a lot worse when I'm eating dairy and grains. It hurts a lot worse when I'm not moving. It hurts a lot worse when I'm not engaging my core. So there's different levels. So yes, can we make ourselves perfect again? No, not necessarily. But how do you want to live? You can always modify and find ways to thrive.
So what are, for example, in a world of CrossFit and extreme this and blah, 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 that, if I am, we're not talking about age, we're talking about years that have passed. If I'm in my 40s, 50s, 60s, what are the methods of exercise that you have seen to be most beneficial?
So everyone's different, first and foremost. So like what I'm going to advise for each person would be a little bit different, but there are some general things that I think are key for most people. So like there's some standard moves that I think really have a place in everybody's workouts. I'm a huge fan of planks, for instance. I love planks. I think they work your whole body. They work your core when you do them in the right form. So many times people will say, I hate planks. They hurt my lower back or they hurt my wrist. Well, they're not doing them right. Because when you really do a plank right, you shouldn't be feeling it there. So it's learning how to lift your own body weight up, like learning the correct way to do a chin up or a pull up. Like everyone should be able to lift up their own body. Even working towards being able to do one is key. And then it's not about sprinting and beating yourself up and lifting like crazy. Like it doesn't have to be that way, but functional movements, starting with your own body weight is fine to get yourself moving. And then just even being active, like sitting less, standing more, walking, moving, all the things. And there's a lot of therapeutic exercises I think everyone can include, like, think of like bird dogs or just like pelvic tilts, like just getting your body back to move again.
That makes a lot of sense. One, and I know you mentioned there's a triangle. We've scratched the surface of so many areas, and I'm really encouraged to hear that you are taking a multifaceted approach to this, because so often we just hear one piece of the puzzle, and in some ways that can be more destructive than getting nothing, because it's like if you over-index in this one area and then it doesn't give you positive results, you can develop a sense of learned helplessness because you're like, oh, I'm trying so hard. Well, yes, but you're in some ways, being a 10 in one category and a 0 in all the other ones versus like a 7 across the board.
Totally.
It's so important to bring all that to bear. So folks can get that complete picture. Again, tell us, where can we get the book, the name of the book?
The book you can find anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere, Aging in Reverse. And it's not just for women, it's for women and men. But because I'm a female and I am 47, I seem to speak best to females in that age range. But yeah, this really can apply to anybody. And even just using a section from the book might help shift your thinking. But what I really want people to take away is it's not just the diet. It's not just the workout. There's such a bigger piece to it. Your mindset is a lot. And I know people don't think that it is, but I'll tell you, when you can get your mind right with things, so much changes with perspective and how you look at life and how you look at yourself. And that's the key, because my gosh, Jonathan, I see in this world, especially where I live in Southern California, all I see is fix it mode. Everyone's like in fix it mode. Like, I need more Botox. I need more hair extensions. I need more spray tan. I need more like I get it. I see it. It's in this fix it mode, but we're not really like rebuilding, and rebuilding starts with the inside.
And I love that idea of that mindset shift, because I feel like that term, that shift, like as the years go by, like that slight shift in your mindset, because the years go by, that sort of gap between where you were and where you are now, because of that slight shift, as time goes by, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it sounds like that's kind of how you age in reverse.
Yes. And here's the thing. If you don't address that and you come from a place of hating yourself, and I know people that don't love mindset stuff, sometimes they are in that negative place of not liking themselves. You just going into control mode, trying to fix it all, that's just a Band-Aid, and it just makes it worse. It does. It really, and that's where breakdowns happen. That's where a lot of disease happens. So much happens from that place.
Beautiful. Natalie Jill, where can we go online to learn more about you personally?
Yeah, at nataliejill.com. You can find my podcast, Leveling Up, Creating Everything from Nothing, or social media everywhere, Natalie Jill Fit.
Beautiful. Well, congratulations on the new book. Thank you again for sharing your time, wisdom, and insight with us on the SANE Show, Natalie.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, everybody. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did. Again, our guest today is Natalie Jill. Check out her new book, Aging in Reverse. And remember, as always, stay sane.